Hey, I'm Caleb. Welcome back to my channel and to another video. I was going to be flying the Cessna today, but as you can see based on the clouds and heavy thunderstorms, nature had other plans. Welcome back to Ann Arbor Municipal Airport for another day of flying the Cessna. I did manage to spot University of Michigan's Survival Flight Rescue helicopter coming in for landing, check out my videos there, and soon it was time to head to my flight school. Alright, so we're back at Ann Arbor Airport. We're going to go flying again. I'm here with the Cessna. This is 1377 Sierra with the all Garmin glass cockpit. Should be fun. Gonna fly from here in Ann Arbor down to Toledo. Check that out. Of course, you guys are coming along for that. We've got all our stuff. We got our flight bag. We got everything we need. Got the sunglasses. Always gotta have those. Alright, we'll get the thing all done. Pre-flight's ready, and we'll push out and get going. See you soon. Yeah, so talking flying eyes, I just got in the program with them. So if you're interested in a pair of your own, use code Caleb10 for 10% off. Anyway, here's our Cessna for today, November 1377 Sierra, equipped with the all Garmin interior and watt LEDs, which are awesome. On our way out of the hangar, I also managed to spot Michigan Flyer's newest plane, the Diamond. This would be a fun aircraft to fly sometime. Maybe I'll try it out for my instrument training, coming eventually. On to today's adventure. The weather was absolutely perfect, and pretty soon it was time to push back the plane out of the way of the other aircraft, and then get in and start her up, heading out to our runway. I also apologize for no air traffic control recordings or proper footage of takeoff. I have still yet to replace my GoPro, which mounts to the window, for proper takeoff footage, and because of this, I also didn't bring my cable for recording air traffic. But pretty soon we reached the end of the runway, had to hold for another aircraft which was doing their run-up, ran through our pre-takeoff checklists, and pretty soon we were heading out of Ann Arbor up in the air, bound for Toledo. As we head out of Ann Arbor, this is a good time to remind you to check out my channel, subscribe, and like this video if you enjoyed it. Also make sure to leave me a comment and turn on notifications so you're told whenever I publish a new video. I'd really appreciate it. Thanks. The weather today was absolutely perfect. Blue skies, a couple of high clouds, and we even managed to see an F-16 fighter jet. More on that later. As we flew up to our cruise altitude of 3,500 feet, pretty soon the power plants of Toledo came into view, and Lake Erie up ahead. I've seen these nuclear power plants before on my Frontier flight, but never so close, and this was absolutely excellent. Anyway, lousy Simpson jokes aside, pretty soon Lake Erie came into view. As we got closer and closer to the shoreline, this was definitely cool. Also, as I mentioned, because of my lost GoPro, this is the best footage I could come up with, having my backseat passenger film the cockpit area and out the window. Speaking of which, here's a good time to look at our route map. Flying out of Ann Arbor, we head south-southeast, past Luna Pier, fly over Toledo, plan to do a touch and go at Toledo Airport, which ends up not happening for reasons you'll hear about in a little bit, and then leave Toledo Express Airport, head back up north-northeast, flying over Michigan, over Adrian, near Tecumseh, and back to Ann Arbor, taking an hour and 22 minutes at 120 knots at 3,500 feet. Pretty soon we reached Lake Erie, which feels a lot like an ocean. People just don't understand the size and scale of the Great Lakes. There's the shoreline of Michigan and Ohio over there to our right, but off our left wing, it really looks like an ocean. Flying over the Great Lakes is great practice for those pilots who want practice flying over water and relying on their instruments, which is part of today's purpose, practicing flying by instrument, even though the weather was good. This footage here really gives you an appreciation for the size and scale of the Great Lakes. It really does look like an ocean, with no shoreline in view, except off to our right, that is. This is also a good view of our instruments. Flying over water would be just like flying over land, maintaining speed and altitude, maintain your heading, looking at the map, and there's our altitude with our autopilot activated right now, doing what our hands should be doing if we didn't have an autopilot, that is. You may be wondering why all this talk about flying over water and oceans. and I'll explain that more in a future video, if that plan comes to fruition. But pretty soon we reached downtown Toledo. There were lots of bulk freighters down below, loading up with ore and other equipment to ship across via the Great Lakes. Pretty soon, however, we were back over land, leaving the lakes behind us. This area here is also part of Ohio, and you can see the interstate highway down below us. We also located Toledo Express Airport, where we were going to do a touch and go. However, we were cut off mid-flight by F-16 fighter jets. We immediately had to perform a go-around and were unable to land. For those who don't know, Toledo Express Airport is also a joint military base, which explains the F-16s in the area. And the F-16s would definitely overtake our little Cessna Skyhawk, being much, much faster. This was cool to see, especially by air, and luckily the air traffic controllers were on it, keeping us well clear of the F-16s and out of danger. And that's another good tip. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Interstate highways are a great reference point for navigation. But pretty soon we were landing back in Ann Arbor Airport. Again, I'm sorry for the shorter footage and no proper landing footage, as my camera was almost dead and I wanted to preserve what was left of the footage on the camera. Pretty soon, however, we were on the ground in Ann Arbor and taxied back to our hangar here at Ann Arbor Municipal Airport for Michigan Flyers, the flight school. Also, for those who wonder, that little box on the window is our ADS-B receiver transponder. Once we reached the hangar, it was time to put the plane away and lower the door. This is always a cool part. And get one last view of our aircraft for today, November 1377 Sierra, as we prepared to leave the airport and reflect on today's adventure. The point of today's adventure was not only to have fun by flying the Cessna, but to get vital practice flying with the Garmin instruments, available on this Cessna, which has an all Garmin G1000 glass cockpit. It was also good practice to fly the aircraft out over the lake, as if it were the ocean, simulating what you'd have to do in an ocean environment, which is essential practice for any pilot, especially for me with my upcoming future trip. Anyway, that's going to do it for this video. Again, make sure to subscribe, ring that notification bell, turn it to all so you see when I upload a new video, leave me a comment, and make sure you like the video in the end. And until next time, as always, I'll be wishing you blue skies and tailwinds. Fly safe.